All right, I want to call this meeting of the Simpson County Fiscal Court to order. If you would, I want to ask you to join me in a word of prayer, and after that, we will have the pledge to the flag. Heavenly Father, we do come before you today to thank you for this day that you've given us, and Lord, we thank you for the many blessings in life. And Lord, most of all, we want to thank you for loving us enough to send your Son to die for our sins. Lord, we just ask you to lead us and guide us in this meeting today. We just pray that the things that we say and do are pleasing to you and are beneficial to the folks here in Franklin and Simpson County. Lord, I just ask you to be with those that take care of us and watch over us here at home and across the nation and across the world, Father, that you just have a protection hand around them and keep them and their families safe. And Lord, we just ask you to guide us during this time. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I hope I get your last name pronounced correctly, Gilbert. We're glad to have Gilbert Mitchell. Am I saying that correctly? From Senator Mitch McConnell's office is with us today. So Gilbert, we'll let you come up, if you don't mind, to come up to the microphone here. Are you going to say some things on behalf of the senator this morning?
I can. I certainly can.
All right.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Gilbert Mitchell. As the judge said, I'm the Newfield representative for Senator McConnell's office. I've had this role for maybe about 7 to 8 months now. A lot of you might have known my predecessor, Timothy Gillum. And I originally was just coming to give this to the judge, but it worked out well that today was your fiscal court meeting. I guess just to address some things for the senator real fast. We're all aware there's a lot going on in D.C. right now. And what the senator would say to you if he was here is that he's been the majority leader and he's been the minority leader, and the majority is better. And, right now a lot of what we're doing in the minority is we play a lot of defense. If there are things that they want to pass that we disagree with, we obviously do all we can to stop them, and we work with them where both sides of the aisle can come to agreement. We know that there's the bipartisan infrastructure bill that's already passed the Senate. There's the human infrastructure bill that is continuously being worked on, started at $3.5 trillion. Some said it was as high as $5.5 trillion. Now they say it's down to $1.75 trillion. That is through the reconciliation process. And so what I'll say is, when something passes through the reconciliation process, that means that they can pass it without a filibuster. So the reality is, with the 50-50 split and Vice President Kamala Harris being the tie-break vote, if all Democrats come together, they can pass that bill without us. And so that's the reality when we're talking about the human infrastructure bill. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard about a couple particular senators, Kristen Sinema, as well as Joe Manchin, and they're a little bit more center-right to their party, and they're trying to come together and find agreement there. But whether or not they'll find it, we'll see. But I know that's where a lot of people's minds and questions are, and the senator's there trying to keep watch over it all as much as he can. But at the end of the day, if they find agreement, there's not much that we can do. The reason I came today, and if anybody has questions, Judge, I think you might have my number, but you all are welcome to call at any time. Email me. I have bunches of cards. I'm happy to give it to every single person in the room. You all, previously, in the past 2 years, you celebrated your bicentennial. Big congratulations to the County of Simpson. For those of you who don't know, a congressional record is when a United States House of Representative, Congressman, or U.S. Senator, anytime they speak on the floor, it becomes a congressional record. It's forever held in the annals of history of Congress. And so when your bicentennial was coming up, the senator went to the Senate floor specifically and solely just to talk about Simpson County, the rich history of Simpson County, and if anything were to ever happen, it would forever be marked in history that there was a rich community here that thrived and loved one another and was able to succeed for as long as to celebrate a bicentennial. And so this is a congressional record for Simpson County that I wish to give Judge Barnes right now. And I'm just glad I was able to be here this morning to do it with you all.
Hey, you could have got in there.
Yeah, I know.
Does anyone have any questions for Gilbert? I would just say, Gilbert, just continue to remind Senator McConnell that Simpson County is a conservative base, and we appreciate him if continue to stand up for conservative values. That's what we're after.
Yes, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can hand everyone a card, it'd be great. I've got it. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, Gilbert, thank you so much. Let the senator know we greatly appreciate the congressional record also. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, moving on. If you had an opportunity to review the minutes of our October 19th regular fiscal court meeting, I need a motion and a second to approve those minutes as presented.
Motion made.
Second. Motion by Nate, second by Scott. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, next, gentlemen, if you had an opportunity to review budget ordinance number 220.233, it's amendment number 3. We need a motion and a second to pass second reading and passage of that ordinance number.
So,
I had a motion by Marty and a second by Myron. That's the way my hearing picked it up. So on the ordinance, we would have a roll call, Pam.
Marty Chandler,
yes.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Scott Poston,
Yes.
Nathaniel Downey,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes, yes. All right, next, gentlemen, today we have with us Ms. Carla Sandusky with Charter Communications. I met with Carla a couple of weeks ago. If you want to, you can come up to the microphone here. I guess most all of y'all are aware that we're making a big push. You know, rural broadband is a huge issue. It's one of the things that when I came in, I think I made it known to the public and to all of y'all that was a big push that I wanted to see that happen. And the federal government, they put together an auction. Long story short, Charter Communications won 6 of the 9 census sectors, I believe, in Simpson County. And I believe they won the 6 most populous sectors of Simpson County. And so Charter's going to begin here mid-November or so, getting started with that. But part of that also, they're going to offer a cable TV package to residents outside the city limits. And so the request is to sign a franchise agreement, and it's just for the cable TV.
Right, we're only required to have a franchise be in the public right-of-way for cable television, but we're also going to be providing mobile service. Right now, we have an offer for our mobile service. It's through Verizon, but it's $29.99 a line if you combine 2 or more lines, home phone as well. So we're going to be able to offer a lot of products to the customers that we'll be passing along the way. And with the internet, we'll be offering at a minimum 200 meg up to 1 gig. And also for kids who are on free or reduced lunch or on senior citizens who are on SSI, we offer our Spectrum Internet Assist program, which is $17.99 a month, and you get 30 meg, which is plenty for a household usually. But we offer that for $17.99, additional $5 for wireless. So we're able to help bridge that digital divide as well for those who, aren't able to maybe be able to get the 200 meg or above. So, but yes, we are required to have a franchise so we can do public right away.
And Sam has reviewed the franchise agreement. It's pretty simple. It's really basically like what the city has with Comcast for cable television. we could opt to charge a franchise fee, but that franchise fee would then in turn be passed on to the end user. And just doing some quick math, if you had 700 or 1,000 people sign up and you charge the franchise fee, I mean, it doesn't equate to that much money, but it would be passed on to the end user. My suggestion would be that we wouldn't exercise that option. Just, and it's a non-exclusive agreement, which was always, we had plenty of conversation. I think I told Carla this, while I was on the city commission, we had several calls. Can't y'all get a different cable provider in here? Like, yes, it's a non-exclusive agreement. Anyone that wants to provide cable TV services can come and do it. So,
Anybody can overbuild us at any time.
Yeah.
Just left up to them.
yeah.
Will the cables, will they be buried? Are you gonna bury the cables, or are they gonna be?
Both. We're gonna be
Pole.
underground and aerial, yes, we'll do both, yes.
That's what I was
Yep.
going to, so you'll have to put in new cable and everything.
Yes, we do have to put in we have to put in our own cable, and yes, and we'll be coming from Bowling Green, Warren County. And so that will be fed from our Bowling Green head ends, so those will be, the channel lineup.
Because I'm wondering if you're going to be, the cables you're running overhead, the internet line you're talking about, Mason, is already at places it's not tall enough as it is, so
Well,
they're using the Warner Electric, and I can tell you from personal experience, that line will stretch about 40 foot before it breaks, because I've
You hang one with the combine?
And those are areas-
They came right on out there and fixed it, though, but that's what I'm wondering about it, with the utility, with the electric lines already there, they're supposed to be at the minimum, but then they're putting a fiber optics line under that, so where will you run these wires?
underground.
Everything will be run
Underground. If we, run, there are circumstances to where it's best that we do go underground, just for various reasons. One, you don't have to worry about, and believe it or not, squirrels are a reality. They will eat our fiber, so you don't have to worry so much about the squirrels or car accidents or anything like that. So a lot of times, we plan to go underground for a lot of the plant here.
And Carla, am I right, in this RDOF auction, that the FCC, it was determined that the build-out of the areas that were won had to be 50% complete within the first 3 years?
4 years, first 4, but we plan to be aggressive, and we're hoping Simpson County, our plan as of now, we should be complete with Simpson County by the end of next year. We are going to do about 20 miles per day to a tune of about 250 miles. So we plan to have everybody up and running by the end of next year.
And so gentlemen, understand one thing. The franchise agreement we're doing has nothing at all to do with the internet. It just is a franchise agreement that allows Charter to operate cable TV services outside the city limits of Franklin. So,
But they can provide internet.
Absolutely, yes. FCC.
Do what?
They can provide internet.
They can't.
oh, yes, they're doing the internet if we said today, no, if we're not signing the franchise agreement, they're obligated through the auction to do the internet. It's just they would like the ability to offer cable TV services while they're here getting that in. And I think it's.
So by the end of next year, your projection is to have these 6 sections completed with internet service?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We through the FCC.
And cable TV if they
cable.
choose.
Yes, sir.
So you're coming from Bowling Green, so
Right.
well, let's start on the north
Okay.
side of the county, I guess.
I'm so sorry.
That's what that says, north.
He's
Yeah.
the North District Magistrate, so he's glad you're coming from Warren County.
Not that I don't care about the others, but,
He got so excited he knocked his nameplate over.
yeah, I was gonna make sure they did say north there, so, yeah.
That is engraved in my mind now. Got it. It's engraved.
I guess my question is, if anybody can provide the cable, anybody can provide the internet, even with this, why do they need this?
Well, it's a requirement, it's a federal requirement to have a franchise agreement signed for cable TV services.
To be in the
Okay,
public right
but
of
even with a
way.
franchise agreement, anybody can still provide the services.
Right, they have to
Well,
come.
they would have to come and get another franchise agreement. We would have to sign with them and allow them to do it.
Right, each company
So,
has to
like-
get their own.
The EPB and Warner Electric is putting in Of course, that's for internet.
That's for
Okay.
internet.
All right,
This
so
is
we-
just for cable TV service.
Okay,
But you can also offer
Right,
internet.
right.
Well, yeah, yeah.
okay.
So my suggestion would be that the attorney said that the court had to authorize my signature on this. There's no cost to the county. It's just, they
It's a
have.
win-win.
Yeah, so we just need a motion and a second to authorize the county judge to sign the charter communication franchise agreement for cable television.
I guess I have one more question before we do that. All this in the green on this map, is that the area?
That's the area that we're building out to, yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'm
There's a lot
assuming
on
that's
this
the one
map.
that we're looking at, is the link that I sent you?
Yes, it's
in
the map with the green
Yes.
area,
Yeah.
it's all the information that you sent to me, they're looking at on this portal
Perfect,
here.
okay, I'm just assuming, and I hope I
And-
wasn't assuming wrong.
And I want to clarify one question, just because, I shared a link, I shared your link, and people were putting in addresses, and then people started calling me.
Right,
Okay, so like one gentleman, when you punch in his address, there's the road that he lives on, okay? And like, I think he's on the west side of the road, and Charter's on the east side of the road, and he said, it looks like I'm going to be left out. And I said, well, they indicated to me that if there's someone like right across the roadway, they're going to try to pick you up.
exactly. We're definitely going to try to pick everyone up along the way. If we have, even if there's a dead spot, like if we have an RDOF area here, then we skip 2 or 3 miles, there's another RDOF area. It's my understanding through our construction team that if there's, let's say, 10 homes along the way, we're going to try to pick those 10, although they're not in the RDOF area, our goal is to pick them up as well.
Right.
Oh, I
So
guess,
they're not left out.
of course, I'm in the east, and it looks like you're running I-65 straight up, but, so in the north part up there, there's nothing, I mean, no charter, there'd be no, any
No,
other.
what you're not seeing on the map here, Marty, is the places where EPB and RECC are already at, and they want, the RECC consortium won 3 of the other 3, plus the RECC's working on 2 other areas already, so you're not seeing that in the map. When you look at this map, those far outlying areas like in the northwest, and then like up in the northeast, there's part of that's being done by a partnership with Warren Rural Electric and North Central Telephone out of Allen County. And really, when all of this is said and done, it's going to be that far remote northwest corner, which is primarily all farmland anyway, with very few residences, will be about the only portion not covered. So there's a lot that this is just the RDOF area that Charter won, this doesn't show the areas, the other 3 areas that were won, or the areas that the co-op had done previously,
But you can change the settings to show all that. If you
Yeah.
like on that map, you can
Yeah.
change the settings
So
to all
how can
members.
the public get access to this? I mean,
Well, I shared a link on my social media where you can actually pull up, type in your address, and it will tell you exactly who won the area that you're living in and who would provide right there. And that's what I'm saying. That's how I got the call from the gentleman. He said, I pulled it up, and he said, I'm on this side of the road. It stops on the other side of the road. Does that mean I'm getting left out?
We're going to try to pick everyone up. And let me say, try
It is.
to pick everyone up. Who
So
knows, there may
is
be
that like
circumstances,
31W?
railroad tracks or whatever. And this
Going
is
up,
all fiber to the home. as well.
like on the
Everything's
northwest
fiber to the home.
side.
Yeah, did y'all hear what she said? The Charter is doing fiber to the home. This is not a wireless service.
Yeah, this is all fiber to the home.
Oh.
And, which is wonderful,
Yes.
because this will allow us to,
Yeah.
usually in franchise agreements, there's a house, let's say 200 feet off the road, well, we can run a drop, but then after that, we may have to put an amp in or something. This will allow us to reach folks who are 1,000 feet off the road without having to put
it would
additional
be
equipment
nice
in.
to have an update every quarter or something. People are
Okay.
really
And we are getting a lot
yeah.
of
Absolutely. That I
questions
can
asked.
understand.
So yeah, if you're able to shoot me emails with updates, I can send it right out to these guys.
Absolutely, and you're only a couple hours away, so I don't mind one bit. If you
But,
all
but,
want
a,
me
but
to
a
come
time
back.
change too. You had to get up at 4 o'clock this morning.
You know what, I woke up late. So, but I made it on time, and so, but yeah, it worked out perfect. So yeah, that hour really does help a lot,
Yeah.
so a whole lot. Especially when you get a grandbaby on the school bus, so that helps a lot.
Yeah.
So we're not, this says you have, in written notice, if they're gonna collect franchise fees, so no franchise fees at this time?
My suggestion would be not, because, I mean, even with 1,000 customers, it's an insignificant amount we would receive, but they would pass that, whatever we implemented, they're gonna pass it on to the customer
I
anyway.
understand that,
Well,
but next year's election year, we may not be here, so could the next fiscal court change that?
Yeah, I guess we can request that at any time.
Okay. I didn't know, just to protect the people, if we need to just take that part where there would never be a franchise fee.
And that's something that I want to clarify, because I do, you was mentioning that, and I need to get with our tax folks to confirm, because with franchises, on cable services, we're required to collect a 3% excise tax as well as a 2.4% gross revenues tax. That goes to the state. If you collect a franchise fee, then with the franchise fee, up to 5% goes to the county,
Yeah.
and 0.4% will go to the state. So I want to clarify that and make sure I'm accurate. So there's a way that the county could make a little bit of money, but it would not show, either way the bill would be the same. Even if we collect the 3% excise tax and the 2.4% gross revenues tax that goes to the state, that's 5.4%. We could do a 0.4% to the state and a 5% franchise fees to the county. And I see what you're saying. It's
yeah.
not a lot, but
I think I figured up, like, if we had 700 people hooked to it and we charged the full 5%, we would only collect like $40-some thousand in a year's time. But the customer, our citizens, that money would be, that charge would be passed on to them. So my preference would be not to have that. But I think, Marty, if I'm remembering right from the days at the city when we had to continually sign this agreement with Comcast, I think that clause has to be in this franchise agreement.
Well, just so there's no misunderstanding, I don't want the excise tax.
Yeah.
That's the franchise tax. But this is this franchise term is for 20 years too.
Right.
Yes.
So,
But a point being is, if as you say, a future fiscal court comes in
Could
here,
implement it.
has a different opinion, they can do so.
Yes. They could request a franchise fee.
okay.
But I don't think that clause can be removed from the contract because of federal regulations. I think Scott already made a motion to authorize my signature on that agreement, and Myron seconded it. Any other question or discussion?
One question, thank
Yes, sir?
you. Those of us that are in the county who are close to us being that we're receiving our broadband from the electric plant board, will we still continue to do that?
Oh, yes. Yes. And there will most likely be some crossover section where Charter and the co-op both will have service available. You'll get to choose which one you want to have.
And don't need to leave out, I mean, we got Fastnet now.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, just because Charter won this area doesn't mean you have to, no one's being forced to get on their internet.
It didn't like the trash pickup.
Yeah.
right.
Trash pickup. You have to do trash.
Yes. But I think most people who have like zero options or next to zero options are probably going to be hugging those installers' necks when they're putting that fiber down their road. Yeah.
I know I would if somebody would bring broadband down my way in the sticks, so
Yeah.
I'd be happy.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, thank you.
I have it, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we had a motion and a second.
Don't forget that, yeah, don't forget. Since you're coming this way,
He'll send his name tag with you. If
That's
you want
right,
it.
yeah, I got a card.
All right, so we had a motion by Scott, a second by Myron. Any other question or discussion? All in favor, aye? Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, next gentleman, this is,
This white area, that's the other three sectors.
well, some of that is city limits that's already
Right.
provided by EPB. Some of it is the co-op's pilot area, and then some of it is the other three census sectors that the co-op consortium won. So, yeah, just because it's not showing on this map doesn't mean it's not covered.
any idea
We're
what
gonna,
they're doing. I mean, as far as, she's given us a timeline of this time next
well,
year.
the co-op is working at it right, I mean, they're right now, they're installing now, on their
Okay.
area. So, yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it looks like when everything's all said and done, that we will be, and I know there's gonna be 10% of the people's not gonna like to hear what I'm gonna say, but we're gonna be about 90% covered, but that may be as good as we can get in a rural community. I don't know.
and these white areas in this, in that green, those are what? Just areas that are from, by somebody else or?
Either somebody else or there's no density there at all.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right, all right.
Did
Thank you.
we need to give them a right-of-way?
That's what this agreement does.
Okay, give them a, okay.
For cable, I don't think, I mean, the co-op, I mean, we've not done this with the co-op, I mean, for as far as internet.
Well, we did
We
give
did that with
We
Fastnet.
did give Fastnet
Right,
easement.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
in the county right-of-way.
yeah. All right, is everyone good?
Everybody good?
All right. The next item, gentlemen, is just for discussion only, and Carter Mundy's here. You know, of course, y'all realize that where we were on the moratorium on the R zone, or the R permitting in business zones. Of course, the city didn't follow suit with that, but Carter's still been working on some revamping, because I think we're all in agreement that you cannot do residential development at 100% in a business zone. So there's one page, if you had the page, pull up the page that starts with 8.7, which is the R4, which is apartment buildings. What Carter's proposing is that we take single family and duplexes and residential care facilities completely out of the R4 zone and make it apartment buildings only. That if you want to build a duplex or a single family, you're going to have to go to an R1 or R2 zone, not an R4 zone. And so today, what we're really having some discussion and feedback for Carter is, how are we good with that? Is there other directions that we need to be looking at? I mean, he's just looking for feedback and information so he knows how to proceed. And then you can see in the business zones some different options and proposals. I mean, Carter, if you want to come up and talk about some of that in the business, because I'm kind of at the place myself where I think there's some of the business zones, I think we should omit residential altogether, and I think there's some where we do mixed use that we might allow maybe like up to 30% of that to be residential in a business, but this is going to have to be some collective thinking and some direction given to Carter so we know what to draft up and what's on everyone's mind.
Well, I can tell you, personally, I could do this a lot better if I had a map showing me where these zones are at. If you're talking about, you know, doing 30% of housing in one zone, I mean, if we're talking about along 31W out by Walmart, I mean, I don't know, that's, or, I mean, in that, it's like, somebody buys a spot between Dairy Queen and Zaxby's, that's probably not an appropriate place for a house or an apartment.
Correct.
But if you go on out past it a little bit, that could be, I mean, and there's an open field right past Walmart, that could be a place for a subdivision. I don't know, I'm just saying, if I had a map where I could see, it's just really hard for me to sit here and say this applies to every area. If we could, you know, and I pulled that out, but you've got also the same thing on the north side of town, you got it around 1008. I don't know, without actually looking at a map, it's gonna be hard for me to say what I think should go in each one of these if we're talking about limiting them. So, you know, I mean, we got the industrial park right out past the interstate, which is supposed to be an industrial park, but then they decided that maybe some business up front and then those apartments would be good.
Well, I think one of the discussions too, Marty, would be on our business zones, especially on road front corridor, that all be preserved business, like you're talking about between Zaxby's and Dairy Queen there. If someone wanted to buy that piece of property today and put apartment buildings right there, they could, today, they
Right.
could.
Right.
So do we want to safeguard that by saying your road frontage is going to be business only? If you do the residential, it's going to be in the back portion of it. I mean, those are all some safeguards we can put in, and that's what we got to figure out is what makes sense. And if we do put that in with a mixed use, what percentage, I mean, if someone buys, say, 50 acres on 31W and it's zoned a business zone, and like I said, currently today, someone could buy, they could fill the entire 50 acres with apartment buildings in a business zone. And there actually be no storefront business or retail business whatsoever there. So the question becomes, what percentage do we want to have in mixed use? And Carter, are you saying that there are certain business zones that you feel like should be business only, no residential?
Well, your B5 already has that position right now. In a B5 zone, like where the Downs is, that particular zone doesn't have any residential inclusion at all, allowances in it.
Of course, your B5 zone is your one that most close, it's the closest, the next move there is to I-1.
Well,
I mean,
in essence, basically, your B5 used to be called the D1 zone, which was around the two interstate intersections. And it's branched out over time. Particularly one south starts, just where the old Cracker Barrel was and basically the hotels, and moves south down the 31W corridor and partially up where 65 and 31 crosses on the South Exchange. The other area is, of course, at exit 6, and it encompasses just around the interchange for like 2,500 feet in a radius. And then it kind of branches off as well in that, down the 65 corridor and the 100 corridor, and then kind of stops at a 2,500 feet line and then picks up on a B4, or there are some B2s, B4s in that area immediately on the road frontage of Highway 100. In the same way back toward town, there's some B4s that are sparsely collected along the 100 corridor coming into the city limits, towards closer to town and the creek on 100. The key here is that B4 is a target right now. The B4 area, and I used an analogy this morning with one of your magistrates. Franklin, if you turn the pages back, Simpson County in general, and look at the first regulations that were applied in '63, and they treated Franklin as a residential community, and they allowed business virtually anywhere. And as they grew and matured into a community closer to it, residential always was the activity you've seen being built. Business didn't come along until here recently. And if y'all recall, I think you had a meeting last year, if I recall, about possibly the inequities involved with trying to get business here, and you were looking at a proposal, I think it was, to recruiting service to recruit business here. I think if you take a different approach with your B zones by the comp plan, these B zones are set up on the main thoroughfares coming in 100 and 31, north and south, east and west. If you look at it like that, you've got, from the years past, you've got a lot of, where Franklin was predominantly residential on out into the county, you've got sparse development residentially in all four directions. But there's some open ag areas in all four directions. those ag areas are wide open areas that could be sometime later in life zoned business and zoned residential. That's where we're at today. And when you look at them, the old regs allowed residential virtually because that was the dominant zone at the time. They allowed residential development inside of business zones. And they've been that way up until here recently when the business zones were targeted with apartments. That's what's caused this uproar. The community as a whole, I think the figure out there is that apartments are one thing, but we don't want to be apartment city.
And I totally understand that.
And-
I really do.
What you're talking about, Marty, and I don't know if this is what you're really asking for, but I'm not sure how many extra copies are down there, but I've got some copies of them out. They're pretty good sized copies with color-coded zones on them.
I mean, like you
If y'all
say,
want to pick one of those up and take them and look at it, it'll show you where the B zones are.
right. Because, I mean, does anybody else know exactly where all the B zones are at?
Well, most of them, like Carter said, most of them's up and down 31W. Now,
What
with
was
our
the-
current zoning, they could go, a developer could go on any of our current zoning. Mass developers could come up and buy all the property on both sides of 31W, north and south, and develop it all the way we're currently set up.
It could be 100% apartment building.
Right, so then what happens is, then there's no room for business development.
Yeah.
And everybody wants more business, more business, more business. Well, it's gonna be difficult to accomplish that when we're having it's much easier for these whether out of town or in town, but it's much easier for them to come and develop multifamily dwellings on our B zones. I mean, they don't have to ask for a zone change, they can just
Do it.
do it.
So let me ask this question, I think would simplify this conversation and not drag it out forever. If most of you would probably like to see a map that shows exactly where the B zones are. So I've got copies down there, we can get that. And for the sake of what Carter's needing to do, on the R part, on the R4 part, is everyone good with pulling out single family and duplexes out of the R4 and make them operate in the R1 and R2 zones where they should be? And then on the mixed use in business, once you see where all the business zones are, do you feel like a mixed use percentage is where we need to be rather than just being open up to 100%?
And let me add this to help you in the decision that the mayor's, the judge is trying to portray here. I did a quick inventory when I was working on this. I did a quick inventory through GIS of how much land mass was in each one of these B zones. And our B5, which has no residential prohibited in it, okay, it's absolutely prohibited, is 1,700 acres. Okay, our B1 is not under threat. That's in our downtown district here. And I found this to be, I knew it was high, but I didn't know it was this high. Our B2 is 581 acres. And our B3 is only barely 20 acres. Now, B3 is a neighborhood business. A lot of residential there, but it's residential of old. It's not under the target. What's under target really right now is our B4. That's just under B5, coming back toward town in all four directions. There's only 150 acres there. It's presently B4. So, and in almost every application or call that I receive is in reference to a B4. And they begin that call with they want to develop it residentially. And I counter with, well, it's a business zone. That's the dominant zone. Where's your business? Because I know what our comprehensive plan outlines.
And there can be no apartments or subdivisions. Can they be built in an A1 zone?
A multifamily, not when you have an R4 availability.
Well, but you said not when they have the availability, but it could be built in an A1 zone.
Not at the present.
No, if you've done a subdivision in an ag zone, you'd have to get a zone change.
Okay.
The only residential development is single families.
The only zone we have where you can do residential unlimited, other than our residential zones, is business.
Right.
Now, ag, obviously, if you bought anywhere from an acre plus, you can build a residence on that, but I don't think you can build a duplex on it,
But that's
can
a
you?
single family.
You can do a duplex in what I call, it's in the ag zone, it's called a rural village district. But you can do a duplex, a single duplex in a rural zone, ag, or rural village with a conditional use permit.
So you'd have
But
to
it's
have,
only one duplex.
but you don't have to have the conditional use to do a single-family home.
No.
So those conditional uses, you have to have a condition, but that condition is supposed to be only subject to
Whoever applies for that conditional
and
use.
when that person moves out, the next person don't come up and get a conditional use to do it, so I
And
don't know what.
and that begs another question, too, how we do conditional uses, where they go with that individual. Do we want to consider some of our zone changes, especially when we're getting people coming in and requesting zone changes from ag to industry or ag to residential, that if they get that zone change but fail to follow through with their development, that it automatically revert back to an ag zone if the development falls through?
I think we do that, and personally, I don't think you should allow building on conditional use permits, so they should have to have it rezoned. Because,
Especially a residence, like you're talking about with a duplex with a conditional use, because that duplex is going to be there forever.
Yeah.
Even when the builder or the owner of that duplex passes away.
Not necessarily. Conditional use permits stay with the individual, not with the land. So when the individual sells it
Yeah,
and the conditional use permit is not obtained for the new owner,
yeah.
then it's null and void.
I know, but my point being, you still got the duplex sitting out there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's still there,
It's still sitting there.
okay?
So
So it's
How you
imperative.
gonna deny the next guy from having a duplex?
Well, that's the
if-
other half.
If it's already
And-
done.
and Here we are talking about conditional use permits, but in it's the law, when you issue a conditional use permit, it has to have a year-to-year follow-up visit. The survey's done. Now, I started those this year. I've probably done close to 60 reviews.
I would be inclined to be in favor of not even allowing a conditional use for a duplex in an ag zone. I'd be inclined to I would be willing to pull that out of there.
Well, they go through public hearings. Nobody ever shows up.
But, and I know this is way off what we
Yeah.
started, but I think that's another area that should be looked at.
Yeah.
Because I was on planning and zoning for 9 years, and I know once those conditional use permits, we did a lot for mobile homes, or modular homes.
Well, we didn't do them. Board of Adjustments did them.
Yeah, but we still, once it gets put in under conditional use, it's there, and it gets sold to, a person lives here for 15 years, gets a better job somewhere else, they sell it to somebody else. That new owner does not come back and get a conditional use permit to do that. So I know that's way off subject what we started here, but I think that's another area we should look at.
Well, visits are key with that. And if you issue the permit, you've got to be able to provide the mechanisms to do the visits on a timely basis. That's where we failed for the last 35 years. We didn't do them.
So, are we all pretty much in agreement that we need to come up with a formula on the mixed use that makes sense in a business zone?
Yeah, I am.
All right, so we'll just keep working on it, Carter, and you guys, there's a map down there. I'm not sure how many extra maps I've got, but I know there's at least 2 or 3 down there, if some of y'all want to take one of those maps to look at all the zones.
Okay. He can send it to Nicole, or over here in the.
No,
They send it on the
these were
board?
some we had printed. They're not on
I didn't know if I could just send it to the.
yeah, I don't think they're on a file. They may be.
Mason, if I may, on your first, when you introed this, you focused on R4. In clarifying this, my intention here is by striking what I've striked, it's showing up on your portals. I've took away everything else but multifamily. I would like to consider, and I'm gonna make this suggestion, that this multifamily development, as it's developed under Article 13, which is development plan, it's for lease development only. You understand what I'm saying?
It's for what?
Lease development, lease property. And the reason I say that, there's a difference. We go under, in the county side of it, it's not so much the city, but in the county side of it, we have a lot of lease property that becomes problematic in code enforcement. And it's a strain, especially when you're trying to uphold an ordinance that this body approved and put in, and you add insult to injury when people are able to go out here and get into the rental business and rental homes, and they don't take care of the properties. And this is allowing for lease development in an R4, I realize. And we don't have any R4s that are in the county per se. But that doesn't mean in the future that something may come down the pike that may be in the county and may wind up in the county. I'm suggesting that if we start from the get-go and understanding R4 in depth as an allowance for a zone, we already do this with mobile homes in an R5. Those are for mobile home subdivisions and mobile home parks, or manufactured home parks. We should consider this as an R4 if we're going to say multifamily. That's not including condos. Okay, condos I struck out. It was in there. Condos and townhomes were in there. I struck those out. This needs to be for apartments. Let's talk about the problem. The problem's R4. Community has spoken. They want a closer vision of what our R4 zone should be in Simpson County. It's not a lot of area that's taken up, but we've had a lot of conversation in the last year about it. So if we want to keep this to a minimum, we should tighten up the control. Okay?
Yep.
This is like your rental properties out, that you will hold the
Yes.
landlord or whoever responsible for keeping this, or having them keep
There
their
are a
tenant
way
clean.
that you can control rental properties in general, but your apartments and your mobile home parks seem to be at the top of that
Right.
food chain, basically.
Yep.
I mean, we get the little tidbit ones here and there, but for the most part, it's the mobile home parks. A lot of people, you can't say very much positive. The negatives really overwhelm those zones in R5. And when you look at R4, how do you know? And the reason we're not saying much about it now is because it's pretty tame in comparison with the R5. But we're getting an awful lot of talk about R4 right now and multifamily, and that could really be a big problem, bigger than what manufactured home parks are right now. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Carter.
Thank you, Carter.
I think we all understand that where we're at with what we're seeing, kind of an unprecedented growth, that we need to have some mechanism, some way to manage our growth. And quite honestly, it's going to take some courage from the folks sitting here and sitting over at City Hall to implement the changes that's going to need to be made to manage that growth. So we'll keep working on it. But I know there's 2 or 3 of those maps down there if y'all want to take one with you. All right, gentlemen, if you had an opportunity to review the budget transfers, I need a motion and a second to approve those.
Motion made.
Motion by Nate,
Second.
second by Myron. Any question or discussion there? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, gentlemen, if you had an opportunity to review the cash transfer of $9,884.04 from the federal grant fund to the general fund. I need a motion and a second to authorize that cash transfer.
So much.
Motion by Marty,
Second.
second by Scott. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, gentlemen, is one that's going to be on here quite often, as long as the jail is providing someone working through the road department to do roadside cleanup. But we need a motion and a second to approve the cash transfer of $1,041.52 from the road fund to the jail fund.
So move.
Motion by Nate.
Second.
Second by Scott. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. And then finally, gentlemen, if you had an opportunity to review the bills and claims, we need a motion and a second to approve the bills and claims as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Myron,
Second.
second by Nate. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving into reports. Pass these down here, Counselor.
Yes, sir.
The one thing I want to just make you guys aware of, this note was dropped on my desk yesterday, that it came through the channels at Planning and Zoning, that
That's awful small.
do what?
That's awful small.
You get those magnifiers on there, Nate.
I gotta get
You do.
need 2.5.
But what you're looking at there is property on Witt and Steel Road, XYZ. You know, they had 130 acres rezoned from ag to industrial. You see the dark broken line that's running through the property from Steel Road, and it's pretty much equally split, 65 acres on each side. They're making a request to split their land into two 65-acre parcels. That's all the information that I have right now. I just wanted you guys to be aware that that's what's happening. Now, in the event that they're doing so to possibly sell off the one half that their facility's not on, they would be subject to all of the guidelines and parameters to the liens and so forth that are in place, which we happen to hold the second lien on that property.
How much is that amount, the lien?
Well, right now, what they've got $650,000 note that I'm aware of with a mortgage lender. The lien that we're holding is in the event they default on the payback on the processing equipment that's in. And so right now, that amount is basically the full $850,000. So if y'all recall, they were the $1 million, and it's kind of a misnomer to call this a grant, because I mean, technically it is a grant, but there's certain guidelines that have to be met. It's paid back, and once that money's paid back and the jobs and all that are met, then that money does become available for the industrial authority to put out in other programs to do. But in the event they don't follow through, if they were to default, if they were to fold up, that $850,000 has to be paid back.
Do you know, or does anybody know if they're actually doing anything?
I have no idea.
Because I know the last time he was up there, they had created like 4 jobs in 2 years.
Right. I just know that this request to split this property in half kind of threw up an alarm in my head that,
I hate to sit here and speculate on what they're doing, but
I don't know.
Before I would vote to sign any kind of release on anything, I would want I'd want the entire 800-something-thousand paid back.
yeah, well, my thought would be that if you sell off half of your collateral, at least half of your note should be paid down.
Or more.
That's generous.
Yeah.
That's very generous.
Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see. I just wanted you guys to be aware of what's transpiring there, especially since we're holding an $850,000 note, basically.
Holding a bag for $850,000.
Yeah. Other than that, gentlemen, I have no other reports. Myron, you have anything?
Just people on Macedonia Road, just be aware that they're starting to grind in, and hopefully they'll resurface here in the next few days, weather permitting.
All right. I know Scott has some information because I was involved in this conversation last week, but I think y'all had a meeting last night.
We did.
Soil conservation.
Soil Conservation met, and they have been notified that the NRCS office is on the closure list for May 31st, 2023, in which they house our soil conservation, and they get to go in there, and it's a state, I guess the state pays the lease for that. And so we just kind of get to piggyback off of them, and they can, in that office, it all goes hand in hand. So actually, what we'd like to see happen is it stay open, so they can keep using it, and maybe if you can, you know, talk to...
Is this a federal program through the USDA too?
All I've got is just what it says right here. Yeah, it's, so, I mean, if, you
We
know,
may need some help,
Senator
Gilbert.
McConnell, or, that's right, or Jamie Comer, or Ryan Quarles, anybody that you could contact and, you know, try to keep this thing open, we'd greatly appreciate it. That's all I've got.
When I was on that board, they told me that the sad reality was that office doesn't issue any fines. That office is simply there to help. Or Division of Mining, they can find somebody who's not, there's ways for them to generate income with this. This office is simply there to help people. There's not a lot of fines or anything issued, so that's the reason this office is getting cut, where others are not.
Yeah.
And they did say, I mean, there was one other county that has been on the closure list since 2002, and they've not closed it yet. But still, you know, if we can help them in any way, I think we should try.
Yeah, absolutely. Nate, you have anything?
Not really, no report, but the people off of Hatter Road, you know, they're excited that the road crew is out there working on that road now. You know, because that's something what they've been looking forward to for years now. You know, so some of the residents have expressed their feelings that they excited to see the bushes up, you know, and like the trees being trimmed and everything, and then the widening of the road also.
Yeah, good. Marty? Counselor?
Pay your taxes.
Sheriff?
I did.
Brent, anything with the jail?
Numbers, 294 total, 238 in Court County. That's at the first of the month. We always have a drop on the date of the first of the month. Yesterday was 239, and the ladies are working diligently to get that number back up.
I have a question just because of an observation that I've had, and I asked the jailer, but I didn't get real clarification on this. At one time, the Department of Justice had said early on that inmates could no longer get out on work release unless they were with a jail deputy, but I've seen a few out with just other people. Has that changed?
Yes, they opened that back up, I believe, in September, Mason. We had
That's correct.
come in and do the flag.
Okay. I
That's
mean,
correct.
we just hadn't been notified, so I wasn't aware, so I was just curious. Okay.
That leaves, I believe, in September.
Last fall.
When? In September?
So I said last fall, early fall, so yeah, that's
Last
correct.
month.
That's changed.
Okay.
2 months.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious. Thank you. Carter, anything else for P and Z? All right. Chief, anything for fire department? Bill, anything with maintenance? Bobby?
And you got that list on today you gave out. He's gonna talk about this right there.
Well, a couple things before I start with this. Howard Brewer Road is closed this week. Hopefully, we'll have it open. We're shooting for the first of next week, but we may be a day or two later on that. And Macedonia Road paving was going to start today. It still may start when it dries up, so we'll see where that goes. I gave y'all two pieces of paper. The top one where it says KYTC Local Road Systems. Brad sends that out every so often, and what that is they send me a list of all the roads with numbers, names, mileage, and they want all that verified, and they send it back to the state. So actually, I'll have to send this in with changes. They'll look at it and send it back for the court to approve. So this is more information right now. But there are a couple changes I'm wanted to make. The Kenneth Utley, that is still listed as entirely a county road. And the section from 1008 to the creek, the city's actually done maintenance on that. So they keep that up. Steel Road from 31W down to that little branch right behind Cracker Barrel, they have done work on that, and they're still listed. So I was going to split those out, city and the county, like they're supposed to be. And I noted in there, there's some other roads where the city's annexed, that the county is maintaining the roads. Some of them, it's not really feasible it won't make any difference because it's such a short distance. But that may be something I think needs to be looked at with the city when they start annexing some of this property, especially where there's going to be development. That's like Steel Road. One reason I want to go ahead and straighten it out now is because with as much talk about that area, that needs to be clarified. But the city, I think, is fine with that. The VFW road, gravel road, the city's annexed on both sides of that. Now, I don't really think the city wants to take it into their system, though. But my suggestion is that we at least take it off our maintenance list. There's no residents, there's very little traffic, and I don't think there's much reason for us to be maintaining the roads since the city, any development or anything there's going to come will be in the city. That's up to you all what you want to do with it. But Eddings Road out off of 100, of course, the Industrial Authority is bought all around there. There still is that little residential area. It's in the county. I talked to Chris Clotter, and I know there's some money in the budget from the state to do some improvements on that road. And we talked about after those improvements are done, that the county should ask the city then to take that road in.
Does the city doing, is that Garden Lane going back to Hunt Forward? Does the city do that?
Yeah, that's city.
Yeah,
And that's gonna loop around and come out on that road, so that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Yeah, that loop that the Industrial Authority built last year connects to this
it
road.
will loop and connect, but it's still going to be posted as no truck traffic on Eddings Road.
Yeah, but what
But it
I was
will
saying,
connect.
if they're doing all the rest of it, they might as well do that part, if we wanna get that.
And you have the apartments on there, and you're gonna have more development all around it. So, I mean, that's nothing to do now, but I'm just saying for future, we'll think about that. The one thing that I would like to address, though, is Mast Road, which is in the west. In 2017, Mast was removed from the list. And if you go back and look in the 90s, there's even some questions about how it got put on the list. But the issue with it is there's only 2 residences on that house. They're both in Logan County. Logan County has paved their section of that road. So my concern is if we were to drop that and make that a private road, the 2 houses on that road, they do not own the property that joins this section. So they would have to go through a private road, and Logan County would have to have access through a private section. I'm fine with, since it was on there, I would suggest we keep it as a county road, just maintain it as a gravel road, which we've been doing anyway, because the property or the people that live there do a lot of maintenance themselves, but because they have some truck traffic in there. But they know that, and they're willing to do some work. But I'm afraid we would cause an issue by dropping it completely. So,
Is it already paved?
no, it's gravel.
Gravel road.
It has been. And they've asked me, I said, I don't see it happening. With two residences both living in Logan County, I don't see it happening, but it's been maintained for years.
Call Judge Chief, tell them we need to pave that road.
Or give us the property.
Yeah.
So I'm just concerned it would cause issues for people if we were to completely drop that. And that was just, I guess it was taken off previously just I don't ever remember
We
discussion
run
about
this
that.
before in my district, and if that road wasn't advertised and properly closed, then there's all the reason in the world that it could be put right back on.
Yeah. That's kind of like the VFW. I'm kind of saying, let's just take off our maintenance and really ask, the city actually, I think, needs to take that. That's, should not be our responsibility, I don't believe. But yeah, we have some other roads that we've talked about. If you drop a road, actually remove it completely from the system, it has to go through a public hearing. So, and there also, right now, on this list, the roads in the park are not named. They're in the county list as just park roads. And Mason, I've talked about that. I thought if you all, I know you're in the process and you may not be able, it needs to be addressed because they need to, we can just leave it like it is if you want to now and let them okay their list because they're wanting to update that.
I mean,
as quick
There's
as
gonna
they
be
can.
two roads, there's gonna be two roads at all.
Yeah, we've already
Yeah,
Voted on that.
we've approved the names. The city's not had any pushback to those names. But I guess the issue is, and I don't know where we're at. I mean, obviously, no one knows where we're at on this. But obviously, the park is in the city. I guess the city's currently maintaining those roads. Are they not?
Well, the last road that was paved, the new road that was paved around would be the lower
County
side
did?
if you go in, the county did that.
Oh,
County built the parking lot there.
Yeah, we did the parking lot in another part
The county
too.
does a lot of maintenance in the
So we've done it. So,
I mean, do the park roads need to be in the county system? Are they in the county?
they're in the county system now, they just don't have a name to them.
Well,
So,
we've authorized names, and that's been submitted to the city, and I had no pushback or negative feedback that
That's
they,
been 3-4 months ago.
yeah, so.
Yeah, I asked Terry the other day about the signs, and he would like to put the signs up, he just want to make sure, certain there wasn't going to be pushback from the city.
I asked, was there any problem with it, and I haven't heard back. So I'm assuming no problem. Let's put the signs up.
well, I just need to know which roads are named which so I can mark them on our map and turn them in.
Bob can fill you in on that part.
What about Mast Road? Are you all okay with keeping it, putting it back on the?
Counselor, does this take action of the court if we,
Yeah.
like removing the VFW from the county maintenance list, does that take action of the
I
court?
think better safe than sorry, because particularly on Mast Road, if it's already been taken off, I think it's gonna require action to put it back on. And I think if you're removing something,
Individual motions?
individual motions, because you're doing individual roads.
So we
Last
would
road would remain a
Now-
gravel road?
Yeah,
remain
but
a
you
gravel
might-
road.
You might want to clarify that because you have an issue with somebody wanting to add a road. This was previously a county road, Mast is, that was,
Gravel.
as far as, I never knew it was taken off the list till I found it in the paperwork. So it was a gravel road, the county, and all I'm asking is just for us to continue maintenance and put it back on my list.
In its current gravel condition?
Yes, the way it is.
And I know your concern for that is if someone asks for a road, there's specs it has to be up to before we will
We
take.
say before we will accept a road into the system, it has to be brought up to certain specs. So that's why I'm saying this was previously done, was,
So what we
taken
would
off.
need would be a motion to add this .49 miles of Mast Road back into the county maintenance system in its current gravel condition.
Motion made.
Got a motion by Nate? Second by Myron. Any other question or discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. And then next, gentlemen, upon Public Works Supervisor recommendation that we remove and the VFW road's gravel also,
Yes.
correct? That we remove the gravel road named VFW Road from the county maintenance list.
second.
Motion by Myron, second by Scott. Any other question or discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? And so the Eddings Road discussion, we need to wait till we get this industrial authority grant done and get that
I
improvement
think that would be
made.
the right thing to do, is get it, since we got the money in our
Because the
No,
money
it's-
comes through the county
It's
to
just
get
going
it
through
done.
us, but still, that way that would be done and there wouldn't be question.
We can address that when
Yeah.
we get that road upgraded.
And then I'll get the names for the park and get them included. After this is sent in, they'll send us back another copy, which you all will have to look at the whole thing then and approve it.
Okay.
The only other thing I have, and you may not want to have a lot of discussion about this, but Marty had a request for a road. And I suggested they come here first. So I have written up what I'm going to send the property owner.
To
And-
give you all some history on this, this has been in, back when Jim Henderson was judge, Kenneth Utley was magistrate, the county bonded, put out a bond to pave all the gravel roads in the county, providing the landowners would sign easements. This is one of the ones they would not sign an easement on at the time. So they called me and I told them to bring it up to the county road specs. I would see no reason why it would not be accepted in the county road maintenance program. But, and she was asking me how much it would cost and I told her I didn't know. I mean, I don't build roads, so I don't know, but Bobby has printed her a list for her to take. I told her I would advise, the only advice I would do is say get at least 2 different contractors bid on it if you're talking about doing this much work, because one could be way off or way cheaper. But basically, they're wanting to do this so they can subdivide some land on this road. It's out Rapids Road, so that's the reason. They asked me, could they sell 3 10-acre tracts and use one driveway to go out of it, and I said, absolutely not. So you have to have 100 feet of road frontage. So they want to sell some 10-acre tracts on this road, but I told them that's the only way they could get this done.
He's currently got this whole farm for sale, right?
Yes.
Well, I thought.
So what you're just wanting, you're just giving information.
I'm just
that you're
giving
gonna
you
send
the
this list
information
to
I'm
those-
going to give the
Okay.
property owner, and that way if they come to you, you can say, well, you have this, and if there's something in there you don't agree with, let me know, and I'll be glad to discuss and change it. But I'm just giving you the information I'm going to send them.
Okay. Bob, anything with emergency management? All right, gentlemen, I do need a motion and a second to do what I hope to be a brief executive session, but when I read this off, y'all may think it's not going to be brief. But I need a motion and a second to enter into executive session according to KRS 61.810, paragraph C, discussions of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the public agency. Paragraph F, discussions or hearings which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual or employee. And paragraph G, discussions between a public agency and a representative of a business entity and discussions concerning a specific proposal. If open, discussions would jeopardize deciding, retention, expansion, or upgrading of the business.
Motion made.
Motion by Nate,
Second.
second by Marty. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? We recess, but we need